Good morning and welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, our kickoff event for what is going to be, we've been calling the Year of Mexico. And so this is an initial event to talk about doing business in Mexico with a group of phenomenal leaders that they can help us identify trade and investment opportunities between Mexico and Utah. Quick update, we're going to be doing a governor-led trade mission to Mexico in October. This is the first trade mission that we're going to be doing where we have these virtual tools that we've all learned how to utilize during the pandemic to help us prepare for that in-person trip in October. And so we're very excited to have a group of companies. We welcome everybody who is attending today to reach out, to stay in the loop so you can learn more about how you could participate in that trade mission in October. But prior to then, we are planning a series of virtual and in-person engagements. So by the time we get on the ground there in Mexico, we have companies that are prepared. You've had the opportunity to connect with your counterparts in these key cities in Mexico that we'll be going to. And hopefully by the time we get there, you're well on your way to identifying and taking advantage of new trade and investment opportunities. And so that trip will be in October. In September, we're very excited to be hosting a delegation. We hope, not yet 100% confirmed, from Guadalajara with a group of business and government leaders coming here to Utah. In July and June, we plan on doing a series of webinars that are focused in on Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey, working with our partners in each of those cities to help connect our Utah companies with companies and others that could be helpful in those cities. In April, we plan on doing a virtual trade mission that will be industry focused as well as nationally focused, which means we'll do an aerospace, we'll be focused on manufacturing, intellectual IT, as well as agriculture. And we'll bring national leaders from Mexico to do a deep dive in each of those industries for industry leaders here in the state of Utah. Prior to that, we'll be following up to this event and answering your questions and making sure that we use today's event and discussion as a catalyst to help Utah companies start to really dig in and find out how trade investment with Mexico can help them grow their companies. But first, we've got today's discussion and a phenomenal lineup of speakers. Very, very grateful to Ambassador Miranda for joining us from the Mexican Embassy in Washington, D.C. Also grateful to have Steve Alley and Ken Duckworth from the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City, and we'll have a chance to hear from them here shortly. Before we jump into the program, I'd just like to highlight some of our phenomenal partners. First and foremost, we've got Franz Kolb with the Governor's Office of Economic Development. Franz, thank you for your partnership and all the great work you're doing. We're excited for the Year of Mexico, and we're going to be working very closely with you and your team to put together the absolute best program throughout the year we possibly can. So Franz, I'd like to give you a quick minute to introduce yourself and welcome everybody, and then we'll go to you, Jose.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Miles. It is an honor and a privilege for me to be here. I'm so grateful for this very important event. I would like to just compliment the World Trade Center Utah for putting it on. U.S. Commercial Service, we are so grateful for this important event. What I'd just like to say one or two things. Number one, we are committed as a state to continue to build bridges with the Republic of Mexico. We have been over the years many times in Mexico, and we've hosted many delegations up here. Mexico, as we will learn, is one of our key trading partners. We are just great, and this is not just the state of Utah's effort, this is many organizations. And I'd just like to maybe mention two or three. I remember the Utah Hispanic Chamber of Commerce has worked very hard. We also have had the U.S.-Mexico Chamber of Commerce. They have also helped, but from our office as well, the Governor's Office of Economic Development. But I just want to let everyone know that we are committed. We have a governor, Governor Spencer Cox, who speaks Spanish. He is committed to Mexico, and we are delighted to go in October, keeping our fingers crossed, depending on the pandemic, down to Mexico and to visit our good friends. And but for me, I need to mention that the Honorable Jose Borjon, the council and his staff have been absolutely wonderful to work with us from a diplomatic and cultural and business level. So in behalf of Governor Cox, in behalf of the Governor's Office of Economic Development, welcome everyone, and let's do business with Mexico, with our good friends down there. One last thing, so many times I always say our Mexican friends speak from the heart, and that's what I think we need to also do. So thank you also for U.S. Department of Commerce, and we also have representative from the embassy here, Ambassador Miranda. Welcome everybody. Thank you, Miles, for the opportunity.
Great, thank you, Franz. Really appreciate that. And Consul Borjon, you are a full-fledged member of Team Utah. You represent Mexico here in the States so well. We're so grateful for your service. And we just hope that that you stay here as long as we can possibly keep you. But you have been instrumental. It's exciting. We've been talking about trade mission to Mexico, doing a significant focus on Mexico now for several months, if not a year and a half or so. And it's exciting to finally be on the brink of kicking this off. And so why don't you go ahead and provide some introductory remarks yourself.
Well, thank you, Miles, and thank you all. Buenos días a todos. Espero que estén bien. It's really a pleasure. You really nailed it when you said that. I feel myself a part of Team Utah, and I love being here and really working with you and the partnership with World Trade Center, Governor's Office of Economic Development, and all our friends who are committed. So it's a great honor for me to join this webinar as to kick off this program of activities. I love it when you mention it as the Year of Mexico. So it's a great opportunity, honor for us, and to have the high level of Ambassador Miranda joining us, as well as Mr. Steve Alley, the U.S. Minister Counselor for Commercial Affairs at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico. But let me spend 1 minute not talking on trade or economic opportunities, because as Franz said, there is such a great relevance in the Mexico-Utah relationship. And let me help our friends who are in this call put a context here. We had the visit of Ambassador Bárcena on last October, and it was really wonderful for all of us because it highlighted, these bonds that unite both Mexico and Utah, which are deep in our common history. They are nourished by rich family ties and shared values. In both sides of the border, we have families, we have values with good work, education, family, and these are bonds that can flourish thanks to the economic opportunities, and I'm talking about the USMCA, and this will help us overcome current day challenges like the COVID pandemic and create more jobs and wealth in the whole region of North America. That is the way we see it. I think it's very important. And that's why I believe it's so relevant that we have identified the opportunity of a trade mission to Mexico this year, because it has a historic also importance of what is going on in Mexico. Let me share with you that our president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, has designated 2021 as the year to honor 200 years of independence, of Mexican independence. And this way, our government will hold several celebrations for certain anniversaries in our history, like the founding of our Mexico Tenochtitlan, the fall of the Aztec Empire, and the conclusion of a heroic quest for independence. And as many of you may know, Utah was part of Mexico when we gained our independence from Spain almost 200 years ago. So we share this common history, and as the Ambassador Bárcena mentioned, a common future. Utah and Mexico, as I've just mentioned, have strong family values and solid economic fundamentals. And thanks to USMCA, we will have continuity, certainty, stability for trade investment flows in both countries. And besides strengthening the regional competitiveness, which we believe is important thanks to USMCA, the rules of origin that allow this, and the integration of regional value chains. At the same time, this will also we see as an investment magnet for Utah and Mexico. So again, I believe the roots of Mexican and Mexican-American heritage are very deep in Utah. There are a very important presence of Utah in Mexico. So let's work together, like today, to write a new chapter in the understanding and collaboration between our people. This is what we look forward to, and I know we're going to do it. Thank you so much, Miles.
Thank you very much, Consul Borjon. And I love that aspect or that perspective that we do have a shared history, common DNA, and we also have a common future as we work together to build on the partnership. So without further ado, let's jump into today's program. First, we have the opportunity to hear from Ambassador Alfredo Miranda. Ambassador, thank you so much for being with us today. We are grateful that you would take a few minutes out of your busy schedule to help us get your perspective on the U.S.-Mexico relationship, what type of trade investment opportunities exist thanks to the hard work of you and many others on both the Mexican and the U.S. side to get USMCA negotiated, finalized, and ratified. Let me go ahead and just briefly read a little bit about your background and provide a bit of context for everybody who is participating today. Ambassador Alfredo Miranda is the Deputy Chief of Mission at the Embassy of Mexico in the United States of America. He was the first cooperation attaché of Mexico to Central America, posted in the Embassy of Mexico in Costa Rica from 1991 to 1996. His previous assignments were as Ambassador of Mexico in Saudi Arabia and non-resident to Bahrain, Oman, and Yemen from 2017 to 2019, and Ambassador in Ethiopia, Djibouti, and the Permanent Observer to the African Union from 2012 to 2016. He graduated in International Relations from the National Autonomous University of Mexico and continued his postgraduate studies in Latin American Studies. So thank you, Ambassador Miranda, for being with us, and I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Miles. Thank you for this kind introduction. I am very pleased to have the opportunity to participate in this webinar to share with you the importance of the USMCA for North America and why companies in Utah are well positioned to benefit even more by strengthening their business with Mexican states. The Ambassador of Mexico to the United States, Marta Bárcena, is always eager to exchange ideas with the U.S. business sector. But as you may already know, she has embarked on a new project, her retirement from the Mexican Foreign Service, which has prevented her from being here today. Ambassador Bárcena sends her regards and wishes all of us a very successful event. On behalf of the government of Mexico, I would like to thank the government of Utah, the Utah World Trade Center, and the General Consulate of Mexico in Salt Lake City for their strategic vision in organizing an event that lays down the first stepping stones toward a very productive visit of Governor Spencer Cox to Mexico City and Jalisco next October. For the past 25 years, Mexico and the U.S. have strengthened their economic ties based on pioneer trading agreements considered examples to be emulated by other nations, NAFTA in 1994 and USMCA in 2020. Since NAFTA's implementation, trade and investment across North America has expanded, regional competitiveness has increased, and the economic relationship with Mexico, the United States, and Canada has strengthened. Under NAFTA, trade exchanges between the three member countries quadrupled, and Mexico's trade with the world multiplied by 7, becoming one of the most open economies in the world. In 2019, Mexico was the largest trading partner of the United States for the first time, with the trade exchanges totaling $614 billion. In 2017, the three member countries came to the understanding that it was necessary to modernize the treaty. After a very intense period of negotiations, the USMCA came into force only 8 months ago, beginning a new trading era in North American region. The USMCA is an avant-garde instrument that updates the rules of trade between Mexico, the United States, and Canada in order to face the challenges and reality of the 21st century economy. More than 2 decades of strong trade and economic ties between Mexico and the United States have led to effective and efficient regional supply chains that produce goods that are traded in markets all over the world. Mexico and the US no longer simply sell finished products to one another. Instead, we build things together using a regional system of manufacturing production that involves supply chains that crisscross the US-Mexico border. This allows both countries to effectively combine their individual comparative advantage into a competitive regional system, improving North America's ability to compete on the global stage. Today, our economies face a harsh economic challenges that will be better tackled if we work together, just as we are doing today, to learn about, explore new opportunities that can boost the regional value chains that we are building and that have proven to be effective for the economic development of our economies and well-being of our societies. The Utah business sector has an important role to play within this framework. Mexico is the second largest trading partner of Utah. In fact, our exchange $5.4 billion in 2019 are larger than United States total trade with Uruguay and Paraguay combined. Furthermore, almost 50,000 jobs in Utah are supported by trade with Mexico or by Mexican companies that successfully operate in the state, like Bimbo, Cemex, Sigma, or Grupo Salinas, among many others. Also, around half of the products that Utah exports to Mexico are related to manufacturers, a sector in which Mexico is considered a powerhouse. I believe businesses in Utah and Mexico can tap onto the potential that this sector offers for the development and strengthening of region value chains that help us integrate more and be more competitive in the world market. Governor Cox's visit to Mexico will provide Utah's companies a better understanding of what Mexico has to offer. It will be a good chance to widen your contact network and a valuable opportunity to identify reliable partners that will help further promote the economic growth and prosperity that Utah, Mexico City, and Jalisco need in the difficult times we face ahead. Rest assured that the government of Mexico, through this embassy and its consular network, will support the government of Utah in its partnership with Mexico and will be ready to assist Governor Cox and his delegation in their trip to Mexico. Thank you very much.
Ambassador, thank you very much for your perspective and your remarks. We're grateful that you would take some time to be with us today. Next up, we have Steve Alley. Steve is the Minister Counselor for Commercial Affairs at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico, where he leads one of the largest commercial service offices in the world, directing more than 40 trade professionals based at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City and the U.S. consulates in Monterrey and Guadalajara. With 26 years of experience helping U.S. companies expand into new markets and promoting inward investment into the United States, Steve has a track record of building high-performing teams, and he has been recognized for his team's outstanding morale. Mr. Alley received his graduate degree from the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Studies and his undergraduate degree from Boston University. So, Steve, thank you for taking time out of your day. It's wonderful to have you joining us from your spot in Mexico City. And I'll go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Miles, and a big welcome to Utah, the delegation. This is my first time virtually welcoming a delegation from Utah, but I've welcomed physical delegations from Utah in the past. As you mentioned, I've been doing this commercial diplomacy for 26 years overseas. I returned to Mexico 6 months ago to lead our operations here. This is the only market, this is the only country I've wanted to return to in my career. I hope that tells you something. I'm very bullish on Mexico, but it's a big credit to you and Franz, the focus that you keep on Mexico. I applaud it. I applaud you and all the efforts that you do. So why Mexico? Quickly, and I think most obviously, as Embajador Miranda said, 2019, Mexico is our largest trading partner. So each year, it's usually going to be our first or second largest trading partner, along with Canada. The geographic proximity makes it exceptionally or easier to do business in Mexico. There are 38 airports in Mexico that have direct flights to the United States. There's a growing middle class in Mexico, almost 50% of the population. So that's roughly 60 million people, which is, 1.5 times the size of Spain's entire population. It's not small, and it's a great opportunity. As Jose said, there's the shared historical and cultural ties, the American citizens of Mexican origin, the number of Mexican tourists that travel to the United States each year is pretty significant as well. And then I think most importantly, since NAFTA and now with USMCA, basically zero tariffs on virtually all products that are North American products and traded across border. And that's just an advantage that's enormous. And then lastly, I would mention the relative economic and political stability for Mexico. And that makes it, that's something we may tend to underestimate, but it's critically important to have that kind of continuity. So if I were, Mexico for us is a large and very diversified economy. You're going to hear from Ken in a few minutes, but we have about 20 best prospect sectors. So a lot of sectors that we cover, a lot of opportunities. But if I had to distill Mexico's profile down to sort of a single item, it would be that Mexico is a manufacturing powerhouse. It exports more than all the rest of Latin America does combined. And as Embajador Miranda said, we have these integrated supply chains where products go back and forth across the border, and U.S. final goods exports from the U.S. have Mexican content, and Mexican final goods exported has U.S. content. So that's really an important feature of our economic relationship, the integrated nature of our supply chains. And lastly, I would be negligent if I did not mention sort of the strategic global shifts in supply chains and the interest now in having robust and resilient supply chains and more secure supply chains. And this is not only healthcare and COVID related, but it's also strategic technologies and strategic sectors as well. The expression I've heard most recently is ally shoring. So this is a development that's underway, and it's important to acknowledge that as well. So with that, let me just say, I hope you know who we are, the Commercial Service. If you don't, please reach out to us or our U.S. Export Assistance Center in Salt Lake. Happy to talk to you about the services we provide. We've got a great team here in Mexico, and we're in the three most important commercial centers in Mexico, those being Mexico City, Monterrey, and Guadalajara. So with that, really, thank you very much again, Miles, for this opportunity to join you this morning. And I hope the rest of the morning goes well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Steve, very much for that. And Ambassador Miranda and Steve, I know that you both have a lot on your plate. And so we'll allow you to move on with your day if you need to drop off now. But thank you very much for taking time to be with us. And I think one key point that I'd like to underscore, of course, we're focused on helping Utah companies increase sales in other markets. But Steve brought up a very important point in that is that a lot of Utah companies are manufacturing and sourcing in Asia. And these are things that just aren't cost competitive to do here in Utah. And yet there's this opportunity with USMCA, with a more integrated market, to ask ourselves, okay, what are things that could be happening in Asia that would make sense to do in Mexico and source in Mexico instead? I think one thing the pandemic taught us is that sometimes supply chains, if they're extended and overly complex, when a global pandemic hits or some other disruption in global markets, then it can be really difficult for companies to adjust if they have things that are far-flung countries. Whereas with USMCA and Mexico being right next door, there are some efficiencies that may be gained, and those efficiencies help our companies become more competitive as they're out there competing not only internationally, but here in the United States as well. So that'll be a theme as we go through these various seminars as well, as to what are some opportunities to bring things, perhaps looking at Mexico as an alternative to China. Let's go ahead and jump into the meat and potatoes part of our program. Ken, thank you very much for preparing your presentation and the market briefing. Let me go ahead and give everybody a little bit more context about your background. So Ken Duckworth is the Principal Commercial Officer at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. Ken has over 25 years experience working in the private government and nonprofit sectors in government relations, higher education, business, and international development. Prior to joining the commercial service in 2004, Mr. Duckworth was a Foreign Service Officer with the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. Mr. Duckworth holds a BA in Political Science from the George Washington University in Washington, D.C., and a master's degree in Public and International Affairs, Russian and East European Studies from the University of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So Ken, thank you very much. You can go ahead and share your screen if you're able to, and we're looking forward to running through your slides with you. And Ken, if you could turn off mute, we'll be able to hear you loud and clear.
All right, can we see the screen?
See the screen and we hear you beautifully.
All right, there we go. And I somehow didn't get to the beginning. Hold on a second. There we go. Forgive me, I didn't touch it. I'll just leave it there. So yes, thank you, Miles, for that introduction. My name is Ken Duckworth. I'm Principal Commercial Officer in Mexico City, along with Patrick Krizik, our Principal Commercial Officer in Guadalajara, and Eric Olson, our Principal Commercial Officer in Monterrey. We are part of the team of the U.S. Commercial Service, along with Steve. You'll forgive me if anything I do maybe repeats what he says. I have a separate presentation that I prepared ahead of time, and this is actually the first time I'm delivering it. And this is also my first time, as Miles noted. I've spent most of my career in Russia and Eastern Europe, and this is my first time in Latin America. So I'm very excited to be here in Mexico and to share with you what I've at least started to learn over the last 2.5, 3 months that I've been here. So I want to talk a little bit just about the commercial service, who we are, what we do, how we help U.S. companies, and why Mexico. So we are an agency of the U.S. Department of Commerce. We consist of a network of U.S.-based trade professionals that are located at 100 plus U.S. export assistance centers, or USEACs, in major cities across the United States, as well as foreign commercial service officers like myself, and teams of host country trade and business development experts at our embassies and consulates. And our mission is threefold. One is to help U.S. exporters sell overseas. Secondly, to attract and promote inward foreign investment from abroad into the United States. And thirdly, to protect and advocate for U.S. business interests abroad. All three of these lines of efforts focus on protecting, supporting, and generating jobs in the United States. As you can see on the map, in Mexico, we have presence in 3 cities, the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City, as well as our consulates general in Monterrey and Guadalajara. And then if you sort of want to split that out, we actually have territories. So Guadalajara sort of handles that northwestern part of Mexico and Baja California. Monterrey handles the state of Nuevo León, and then up to the border, including the border cities, where we have also consulates in Ciudad Juarez, Hermosillo, and those other cities. And then additionally to our standard trade and investment promotion services, because there's a high level of interest in Mexico and it is an important market to U.S. companies, we have a standards attaché who focuses on harmonizing standards issues between Mexico and the United States, and we have an IP specialist, as well as a digital issues attaché. Okay, so what we do. In pursuit of opening markets and protecting existing access for U.S. firms in Mexico, we offer our clients a wide range of products and services. We do trade and investment promotion. I like to sort of joke, this little New York humor, that we are business yentas. We are matchmakers. We match U.S. sellers with foreign buyers. And in reverse, we also serve as a clearinghouse for connecting potential Mexican investors with important contacts in the United States. Commercial diplomacy is important for breaking down regulatory barriers to trade between Mexico and the United States. We do advocacy, so there is a process for formal support of U.S. firms who are interested in opportunities in Mexican government procurement. Market access, we monitor and enforce Mexico's trade agreement commitments with the United States to ensure that our companies can continue to compete on a level playing field. Protecting intellectual property. As I said, we have an IP attaché here in Mexico City, and we provide counseling and advice to U.S. firms for how to most effectively protect their IP in Mexico, as well as help improve Mexico's IP registration and enforcement systems. We also work on enforcement and compliance, ensuring that trade is conducted fairly and that action is taken where dumping and/or illegal subsidies may be an issue. And safeguarding technology. We verify the proper end use of sensitive and dual use technologies. So if you are dealing in armaments or other sort of products, we would be verifying proper end use of those sort of things. As Steve was saying, Mexico is a large country with a large population, 126 million people. It's home to many world-class, highly competitive manufacturing firms and global companies. In some ways, it's on a par with development country peers around the world. As Steve mentioned, there's a growing middle class that has emerged over the last 2 decades, and successive Mexican governments have emphasized growth-related economic policies, have expanded Mexico's network of free trade agreements, and have worked to improve the business climate. That being said, there's a large informal sector in the economy, and large numbers of the population continue to live below or at the poverty line and are largely excluded from the benefits of Mexico's emergence on the global stage. Addressing these issues remains an important challenge that will determine the country's economic future, and the current government of President Andrés López Obrador has advanced an agenda that is focused on the needs and interests of these groups above all else. With respect to trade, let me start by saying, despite recent COVID-related economic impacts, we are generally bullish on Mexico as a market for U.S. exporters. Mexico is our second largest trading partner and second largest destination for U.S. goods exports. If we account for services, the United States and Mexico traded just over $600 billion last year. That's an astronomical amount of bilateral trade, amounting to almost $1.7 billion a day, or $1.15 million per minute. And while large multinational corporations can certainly contribute handily to this trade volume, it's worth noting that according to the U.S. Department of Commerce statistics, more than 500,000 U.S. small and medium-sized businesses export to Mexico every year. Further underscoring the importance of our commercial relationship with Mexico, you can see from this graph that the U.S. exports to Mexico trailed only Canada in 2020 and far surpassed total U.S. merchandise exports to China. It's also worth highlighting here that, and I will talk about this in a minute, the importance of thinking about North America as an integrated commercial region, particularly since the entry into force of the North American Free Trade Agreement in 1994, which was replaced by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement in July of last year. Cross-border supply chains have flourished. U.S. trade with Mexico and Canada has grown grown exponentially, and we increasingly make things together rather than just exchanging finished goods and services. If you take a closer look at the composition of U.S. trade with Mexico, you can see there is a fair amount of overlap between industry sectors in which U.S. exports and imports are concentrated. This again is indicative of just how well established these cross-border supply chains really are and how dependent our respective economies have become on one another. I will get to a more detailed examination of our best prospect sectors for U.S. exporters in a moment, but it's important that companies seeking to explore opportunities in Mexico understand this macro perspective. Perhaps it goes without saying, given the total volume of trade, but the importance of Mexico as a destination for U.S. exports extends deep into the U.S. heartland. While California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas all trade extensively with our southern neighbor, Mexico remains the first or second largest export market for a total of 24 states spread throughout all geographic corners of the United States. And we at the Commercial Service field countless requests to support state and local level trade missions, such as the one we were doing for Utah, and outreach events every year. Returning to the Factory North America concept mentioned earlier, Mexico is the region's manufacturing powerhouse. The country supports a strong manufacturing, numerous industry sectors with heavily integrated cross-border supply chains such as autos and auto parts, aerospace, and consumer electronics. In fact, Mexico exports more manufacturing goods than the rest of Latin America combined, many of which contain large percentage of US produced and supplied content. To put this into perspective, Mexico is the 6th largest producer of passenger vehicles, the world's largest producer of televisions, the largest market for US produced auto parts, and the largest market for US defense products, equipment, and services in Latin America. Why should you consider exporting to Mexico? As Steve mentioned, beyond supply chains and manufacturing, there are a number of other reasons for you to strongly consider Mexico as an export market. None of these are particularly challenging to guess, but they warrant discussion anyway. Geographic proximity and cost. Business travel to Mexico is generally easy, inexpensive, and convenient, and its location has a favorable impact on the price of logistics and other transportation services. Market size, diversity, and demand for U.S. exports. Most U.S. products and services can find ample opportunity, and a growing middle class has increasingly large appetite for U.S. produced goods and services. And as I believe Franz was mentioning, the strong cultural and person-to-person connections are important. There's a high degree of familiarity with U.S. brands, marketing, and ways of doing business that provide benefits to U.S. firms considering market entry. Why should you consider exporting to Mexico? We're continuing. The USMCA, U.S. qualifying goods benefit from zero duties, and longstanding trade agreement relationships provide an extra degree of business climate transparency and predictability. And as Steve mentioned, Mexico's relative economic and political stability. Mexico's major commercial centers. U.S. exporters without previous experience in Mexico often underappreciate the size, diversity, and distinct characteristics and opportunities to be found in different parts of the country. This list here is not clearly not an exhaustive list of the country's major commercial centers, but they are Mexico's 3 largest cities and the locations where we have commercial service offices and personnel. Mexico City is the political and economic capital of the country, and it's a natural starting point for any country and company interested in Mexico. A major manufacturing and distribution powerhouse, it is one of the largest cities in the world with a population in the metro area of 22 million people. And it is centrally located near a number of other industrial centers such as Toluca, Puebla, and Querétaro. Monterrey is the industrial and border trade hub. It's known for its pro-business attitude and is home to major automotive, household appliance, electronic equipment packaging, and heavy manufacturing industries. And Guadalajara, Mexico's agricultural heartland, is also the Silicon Valley of Mexico. It is home to major R&D centers, distribution and logistics service providers, and agribusiness, electronics, industrial process controls, and food processing and packaging firms. It is the location of the largest expo center in Latin America, which hosts many regional trade shows throughout the year. Here are some of the other cities start on the map for those who may be unfamiliar with Mexico's, or here are those same cities start on the map of Mexico. For those that may not be familiar with Mexico's geography, while commercial service specialists in Mexico are responsible for their industries countrywide, our office in Monterrey and Guadalajara regularly assists U.S. firms with interest in the border region and or Western Mexico, respectively. The top sectors for U.S. exporters are on this slide. Given the many considerations I've already detailed about the depth and breadth of commercial ties between the U.S. and Mexico, it should come as no surprise that we list 20 plus sectors as best prospects for U.S. exporters. As you can see, these range from agribusiness and aerospace to cosmetics and packaging equipment. We describe each one of these country sectors in detail in our annual country commercial guide, which can be accessed for free on our website, which will actually be posted at the end of this presentation. We describe each one of these industry sectors in detail. I'm sorry, if you are interested in specific information by subsector, I would encourage you to start there. So now you've made the decision to come to Mexico. What do you need to do to enter the market? The best strategy to enter the Mexican market is to find a local representative or distributor. With this, buyers feel secure that initial training, spare parts, and service will be provided. And this is especially important for bidding on government contracts. Due to regional differences throughout Mexico, representation locally will yield better results than a single nationwide distributor. It's not always effective to always have one representative in Mexico City to cover the whole of Mexico. Price is an important factor, but not necessarily the deciding factor. Other factors include after-sales service, marketing, support, help with product launching, etc. You'll want to be prepared to have your marketing materials, brochures, catalogs, and other printed materials in Spanish, and keep your websites international user-friendly. Some things to consider when you travel to Mexico: personal safety. Most commercial business and tourism hubs are safe for personal and professional travel. So if you look at this list, you can see sort of comparisons between Mexico City and major U.S. Cities for violent crime. But nonetheless, you need to use common sense. Consult the State Department's travel warning website for detailed safety and security guidance. Sadly, we do have to consider the situation with COVID-19. Mexico is currently experiencing a rise in COVID-19 infections, and this continues to generate significant uncertainty in the Mexican business environment. If you look on this map, Mexico has what's called a stoplight system, which goes from green to red, with that being maximum restrictions on activities to stem the spread of the virus, to low. Currently, there are no, this map may be slightly out of date. Currently, there are no, as to my knowledge, any regions of Mexico that are in the green light sector. Some of the coastal areas down in Yucatan were up until a couple weeks ago. Foreign direct investment. Lastly, I'd be remiss if I did not mention foreign direct investment. As with trade, we have a healthy bilateral relationship when it comes to FDI as well. As of 2017, Mexico maintained a stock of more than $35 billion of foreign direct investment in the United States, and Mexican firms support some 79,000 jobs in the United States. Through our Select USA Investment Promotion Program, our investment promotion team at the Embassy in Mexico City is actively working to continue expanding this number, and they assist interested Mexican investors to expand their footprint in the United States. Some of the resources that are available to you as a U.S. business interested in doing business in Mexico is you can visit our website, export.gov/Mexico, where you'll find our country commercial guide, which is a guide to exporting to Mexico, detailed best prospect industry profiles, contact information for your appropriate sector specialist, and a ton of other information, as well as you would always want to consult with the U.S. Department of State's Mexico travel page for detailed travel guidance, resources, and contact information on entry requirements, as well as personal safety. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope that I have been able to give you a taste of what Mexico has to offer and how we can help. If you have any questions or wish to follow up, please feel free to contact Steve or myself or my colleagues in Monterrey or Guadalajara. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Ken. That was a really helpful presentation. And I know we're running out of some time, but I just wanted to do a little brief Q&A if we could.
And Courtney,
yeah.
Hey, Courtney, sorry. I just want to make sure that everybody knows who you are and why, if they don't know you yet, why they want to get to know you. So Courtney Ray is on the World Trade Center Utah team. She leads up all of our international engagement, as well as is a key member of our business service team. And so Courtney's background is phenomenal. She's got a Columbia MBA. She was a vice president at Goldman Sachs. She was a managing director for Angelo Gordon, which is a $30 billion fund in New York City. She moved to Park City, and we are so fortunate and lucky to have Courtney as part of Team Utah and working very, all day and all night sometimes to connect with Utah companies, help them identify global opportunities and take advantage of those. And so Courtney will be leading us in our Q&A session here for the balance of the time. But Ken, thank you very much for your presentation. I hope one key takeaway from everybody is a realization that the U.S. Commercial Service is such a phenomenal resource all around the world for American companies. And the team here in Utah is phenomenal. Shelby and Dan, Dave Fiskus is the regional manager for the U.S. Commercial Service. We're so grateful for their partnership. And so Ken, thank you for your time. So with that, Courtney, now I'll go ahead and pass it over to you, and grateful that you'll lead us through our Q&A.
Great. Thanks so much, Miles. And thanks again, Ken. So in the interest of time, I just wanted to make sure, I think, Ken, are you okay sharing your presentation? A lot of people have been asking about that while you've been chatting. Yep, you're muted. You can nod.
Yeah, I think I can share that with what I'll do. You have it, so you can send it to your.
So we'll be sharing that with people. So you'll have that information, and there's some great resources on there as well. And then Hannah can post my email so that anything we don't get to today, I'm happy to connect you to the right person or help you myself directly. So don't worry if we don't get to your questions. And I also wanted to point out to you something Miles had mentioned before, which is that our follow-up session will likely be April 21st, which will have a breakout session for aerospace and defense, manufacturing, IT, and agribusiness, because I know a lot of the specific questions that came in were related to all of those. So we're going to hopefully get to some things in here that are related to that, but some that are not, just because those will be specifically covered. And in the interest of time, if you want questions answered before then, feel free to reach out to me and I can get you those answers. And I know Jose has also given Patricia's email, who also works with him, to help you answer questions as well. And then I just wanted to not forget, these are very important points. We can always get you to the right people. Our whole purpose in this is there's no reason to wait until October to have boots on the ground. We want to help you start doing business now. We have noticed during COVID that there is so much we can do virtually, and especially with incredible partners like Jose and with the U.S. Commercial Services, there's literally no reason we can't start helping you do things now. And so please reach out to me so that I can help you get to the right partners, or that we can help you, because there's so much we can do in the interim. And then of course, along the way, as we have the Year of Mexico. And then we also have grants and resources that can help those of you who need that. And just, I was thinking about, even as Ken was saying, you want to have your websites be, be international friendly. We can even help with grants for translation services. There are just so many things that you might not even think of that we're here to help you with. So please do reach out to me, because I know there's a lot we're not going to get to today. Okay, so I know a lot of people had asked about, is there a list of databases and manufacturers in Mexico that deal with different types of products? Based on the conversations that I have had leading up to this, there are so many cities that have very specific types of manufacturing. Jose, I'm going to have you jump in here. I imagine there are lists within the cities. Is it best to sort of have us connect with USCS or you to have specific products where we have people then get those specific lists or appropriate manufacturers? What's your thought, Jose?
Yeah, hi, Courtney. I definitely both us or the U.S. Commercial Services would be your to-go persons. most of the manufacturers are organized in Mexico through chambers, depending on the specific sector. So from there on, that could be a good way to connect. But we wanted to, as Ken was mentioning, give you the best contact series and person. So if we can help specifically, what is your product, what are your needs, that will help us to put you in the right track, at least from our side, definitely.
Great. And Jose, I'm going to actually keep you on the hook here if I could. One of the things that we had talked about in preparation for these webinars that we really wanted to focus on, but it was so broad and covered so many things, it didn't necessarily make sense as a session, was services. I know that you all talked about there are so many services that Utah companies can turn to, call centers, selling products or gadgets, et cetera. Can you talk about how the Utah companies can access these services and to know, what they provide? Is there a list of places to go? And can you discuss services a little bit more, if you don't mind, please?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Courtney. Again, we believe, and Kenneth made clearly the example of the importance in the bilateral trade of services. It's not only goods, and it's a growing sector and opportunity, especially with the bilingual, if you need call centers. So that's where there's a lot of opportunity. There are very developed places in Mexico that can give those services. They have been affected for COVID in this very short term, but it's really a growing opportunity. The way to go, I would suggest is, again, tell us what are your needs specifically. We want to tailor it and really give you a good experience and from there on, again, most of your trade services organizations are in chambers in Mexico. So depending on the specific, do you need call centers, do you need other kind of services, then we can really connect you to the persons that are doing that and try to make this business work. So it will help us a lot when you tell us specifically the needs, and we can try to tailor your response accordingly. But it's a growing sector, financial services and others, and we believe there's a lot of complementarity and a good track record there.
Great, thanks, Jose. Ken, do you all help with that area as well with services if someone were going down the USCS route? You're muted.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So do you all help with connecting with services as well if someone were going down the USCS route?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, our primary mission is connecting the U.S. companies coming to Mexico with the resources they need to succeed here. And, as we said, we match them up with potential business partners. We have connections with all the major business associations and other channels and across industry sectors. So we certainly have those resources available for U.S. companies that are coming to Mexico.
Great, thank you so much. I don't want to go too far down the route for agricultural since we're going to have a full session on that, but I know that several people had asked, what are the top 5 agricultural products imported into Mexico? Jose, can you maybe comment on that?
Sure. Well, let me just remind everyone that our agricultural trade is complementary, because of different seasons. So the U.S. exports to Mexico, the greater products are corn, soybeans, dairy products, pork, beef, poultry, and those are things selling into Mexico. We in Mexico sell to the U.S. fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, wine, beer, snack fruits, processed fruits and vegetables. Of course, we all know avocados. We just had the Super Bowl. That's like the big thing, but it just shows how complementary both are. And let's also try to focalize. Last time we went to Mexico in a trade mission, Utah Farm Bureau joined us, and they had a very successful opportunities in the Guadalajara region, especially for dairy products. So if you're into that sector, we look forward helping you in this next visit, because there are good opportunities there.
That's wonderful. Do either you or Ken know, do you by chance know what the need is for hay? We have a huge hay group here that sells hay.
I don't know, Ken.
I'm trying to unmute. So I don't off the top of my head. We do have a foreign agricultural service representative office here in Mexico, and they're better positioned to answer those questions than we are. And I know there will be a breakout session covering agriculture in the near future, and we can certainly ensure that they're invited to participate and can answer those questions for you.
That would be great. Thanks so much. Really appreciate that. So as we know, U.S. companies are subject to Foreign Corrupt Practices Acts, i.e. they cannot bribe foreign officials. There's a common perception in Mexico that there's a corruption problem. This is a sensitive topic, obviously. We want to make sure that our companies are protected and that they know what to expect, especially when they need to get something done with their businesses. Can you please comment on that and give them some honest guidance? Either one of you, feel free to dive in on that.
Well, let me just quickly address. I think that is a very relevant question. And the way I would say is, first, thanks to the USMCA, there's a series of protections for intellectual property, but also good practices in businesses. And if to that you add our political administration of current President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who has made like a stepping stone of his administration to fight corruption overall, recognizing certain situations in the past. I think that is an important way to address head on from our side in Mexico the issue of corruption, definitely.
Okay, I'm grateful. Ken, do you have anything to add to that, or?
I don't have much to add. I mean, I've worked actually in some of the most corrupt countries in the world, and very rarely have I come across at least U.S. companies that have had an issue with bribery and corruption. I've only had one that actually was caught in violation of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. But most we do have their back to the extent that they are following the U.S. law, and that we, as the U.S. Commercial Service, are not an enforcement agency when it comes to that. But if we were aware of a situation, we would certainly refer a company to appropriate legal counsel.
Okay, great. So in the interest of time, I have one more question. And then again, anyone on the panel, I know there's so many great questions coming in. Please know that we will have breakout sessions with very specific answers on manufacturing, agriculture, et cetera. So I'm just trying to do the ones that are a little bit less related to that. And in the interim, happy to get any answers for you. So my last question is, can one of you please talk to us? I know that, Jose, you just mentioned this related to USMCA. Can you talk to us about IP protection in Mexico and how it is enforced?
Well, yeah, as I've just mentioned, one of the most important changes in the regulations on trade in USMCA is how to protect intellectual property. And we know there's a lot of companies out there in the world, maybe assembling things in other countries. But what we can offer is a track record from the manufacturing point of both manufacturing and protecting the intellectual property. We've shown it with NAFTA and with a revamped USMCA that protects that intellectual property and trade remedies, and if those were needed. I think we're in a very good competitive standing for those who have a very clear warning on what is going to happen with the product. So we have a good track record there, very enforceable laws in Mexico and revamped through the USMCA in protecting this. This obviously applies to IT because we have a growing IT sector, which is very integrated, of course, with Mexico. And I've seen some questions out there. So there are a lot of possibilities, and you should feel certain to find good partners and that your product, your development will be taken care of.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to all of you for your time. I see a lot of the questions that have come up. When you get the presentation, you'll see that there are a lot of the answers and resources that you need in there. And looking briefly at some of the questions that were asked. Again, my information, hopefully Hannah posted on there. If not, it's CRAE, C-R-A-E at WTCutah.com. You can also look on our website to find that. I think Miles is going to wrap up. We're so grateful to all of you as speakers today, and we're looking forward to our follow-up breakout sessions. Stay tuned for the invitation coming out. It would likely be April 21st. Really looking forward to working with you all and helping you get started on doing business with Mexico, our great partner. And Miles, over to you. Miles, you're on mute. There you go.
Thank you so much, everybody, for participating in today's event. Courtney, I really appreciate you leading out those questions. And just a key thing in closing things up, we don't do these events to have a good discussion. We judge our success by the positive action that comes as a result of the events that we're doing. And so this is just a kickoff. Ken, thank you so much for informing us. Jose, thank you to you and your team for your partnership in building out and preparing for this trade mission. But now, now the work starts. Now we have to take the conversations, the information we reviewed, go to work and start identifying specific opportunities. And please, everybody who's still on the line, keep an eye out. We will be promoting this virtual trade mission in April here in a few weeks. And so we want to hear from you. Help us understand what your opportunities that you see in Mexico. We'll go ahead and we'll find the right people in Mexico for you to connect with so we can start now preparing for the trade mission in October. But thank you, everybody, for participating. And we look forward to having this be a very successful year of Mexico.